Welcome to the I Love Coaching podcast, the show where we help coaches, entrepreneurs, and leaders build businesses that create massive impact. I'm Adam Roach, alongside my incredible co-host,
Jess Webber, and we're here today to bring you the best strategies, mindset shifts, and real-life success stories to help you level up in your coaching journey.
Whether you're launching your coaching business, scaling to 6 or 7 figures, or just looking for inspiration to push through, this podcast is your go-to resource.
We're bringing you expert insights, real talk, and actionable items every single episode. So if you're ready to take your coaching game to the next level,
then let's dive on in. Jess, here we go. We've heard this. Why do I feel stuck even though I've had success in other seats? Why do I feel stuck in what I'm currently doing even though I've had success in this role? This is going to be a fun one to talk about.
This is going to be a great one to talk about because we experience this question so many times because we work with incredibly talented humans who have done amazing things. And yet, when they step into the space of owning their own coaching and building something for themselves, they feel lost.
And it's interesting, that word lost that you use, because they do feel lost, right? It's like, in their current seat, they know the steps, they know the path, they know they know everything that there is to know, for the most part, to have success. And yet, when they come into this one, they have a big problem, right? They have a big problem, and we know what that problem is. And I'm not going to share what that problem is just yet, but they have a big problem. And we have a 3-pronged solution to this approach because we see it all the time.
Exactly. And I think it sounds simple, and yet people love to overcomplicate it because they feel like if the solutions that we have are simple, then they're doing something wrong.
Right.
And honestly, you're not. I promise you're not. And so I think this is a very poignant conversation for us to have, especially, started December, end of the year, planning for next year, all these things.
Right. And I love that because the word lost and the word simple, those two things can go so easily together when they understand that they're not lost, and the way to feel found again are simple, little, easy steps that are right underneath their nose. They are just a little bit uncertain how to get there. And that's our big word, Jess. We're going to use that word of uncertainty as the big problem here. Why do you all feel stuck and you can't move forward, even though you've had success in the role that you're in? Is because you're uncertain of the steps to take. And Jess, let's dive into this because this is going to be so much fun. I love that word uncertainty. We see it all the time.
We do see it all the time. And the thing is, like I said, it's a fairly simple concept, and yet people overcomplicate it. Mm-hmm. You don't know everything. No one knows everything. And I think people who are talented and who have had success in previous roles, containers, businesses, whatever, they don't like starting over. They don't like not knowing everything because they've learned so much, they've done so much. And yet that I look at that as most often we have success in a container created for us by somebody else.
That's right.
We've adopted somebody else's brand, even if you're entrepreneurial and opting into a franchise. You've been an employee of an incredible company and you found success there. Doesn't matter what it is, but typically we don't find that every person that comes into this has built their own 100% their own entrepreneurial company and personal brand. Right. And so when we start talking about doing that in the coaching space, they feel lost.
Well, they feel lost, and they also feel, we've heard this word now a gazillion times, and that is a true number, is imposter syndrome. And it's not even necessary to have imposter syndrome because you aren't an imposter. When you understand that clarity is right there in front of you, because everything that we teach a coach on how to go build a coaching business is stuff that they've already done. We know Rory Vaden says it best: you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. If you've listened to our podcast, you know that is ad nauseum. We say that. The uncertainty aspect is because you have served, as Jess said, in a container that was built not necessarily for you, but you had success in that container, right? And now
Mm-hmm.
you're starting to build outside of that container, and you have this thought process of, I don't know what steps to take, though you can really pull from past experiences to take the right steps.
Well, that's why we call our framework that we're teaching people a blueprint,
That's right.
because you are essentially building your own container from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And that is freeing, but it's also terrifying for a lot of people, which is what's creating that uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to start with who you are and what you know, which is your foundation of the blueprint. And yet, creating the spaces for yourself, you're not being told how big to make the rooms. You're not being told how tall the ceilings have to be. You're not being told what materials to use. And that uncertainty causes a lot of fear for people, a lot of confusion for people, a lot of overwhelm for people, because they've not had the opportunity to make their own decisions and
Well,
have autonomy at that level.
and here's what happens there inside of that, and this will move us to the next point, is when you get inside, and we see this all the time. And by the way, this language right here that I'm about to use is not negative towards a specific company. It is not, I'm not trying to be negative here. Though I came from the Keller Williams world, and that container taught me language, right? It
Mm-hmm.
taught me language. It taught me specific paths. It taught me how to do certain things, which I didn't know before. And I had success through those paths. But what it did, though, is it conditioned me to think. This is step number 2. It conditioned me to think a certain way, which I found to be good inside the container, building it for them, but not great on the outside because I was conditioned to think a certain way. And a simple little example I can give there is how much to charge, right? The conditioning of how much to charge was built into me when I stepped into this space and said, oh, I can't go above this because that's all I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we call conditioning. So when you can understand that the uncertainty aspect is created by your conditioning, we can go into that conditioning and help recondition that so the uncertainty starts to go away.
Well, I think you're saying it well, and yet we can go even further. So the conditioning that you had from that previous experience was something as simple as their mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspective. They're
Sure.
pillars of business, right? And that was conditioning you had. You internalized that, and then that translated into something else.
Right.
Well, those things, mission, vision, values, beliefs, perspective, pillars, those might not be 100% in alignment with who you are
That's
or
right.
the business that you're building. And so that conditioning, you start to feel some friction there because of the fact that you don't have certainty in yourself outside of what you've been conditioned to think, do, believe, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's such a fascinating thing where that conditioning trains us to lean into the brand, to use the company or the container to mitigate risk, right?
Sure.
There's lots of things that we find ourselves when we step away from it and give ourselves time. That's a key there.
Mm-hmm.
You start to recognize where the conditioning came in because you start to recognize where that misalignment from who you're growing into and where you've come from is.
Right.
And so I love this conversation because a lot of people may be listening to it and they're like, I'm certain, I'm not conditioned, I'm whatever. And yet, the further you remove yourself from the container that you're in, the more you recognize the fact that it was a container that wasn't built by you for you.
I can give a simple personal example that has nothing to do with the company, right? And maybe you've heard this on past podcasts, though, when it came to doing a cleanse, Jess, the cleanse. We all know what the
Would you stop
cleanse
bringing that up?
with a
I'm so sick of that
cleanse.
thing.
But here's the conditioning part, right? When Alan told me that for us to work together, I had to go through this cleanse. Okay, fantastic. Well, the cleanse involved drinking coffee. Great. I didn't drink coffee, so I asked him what could I change inside that coffee, or for that portion of the cleanse. But regardless of the cleanse, that thought process is I don't drink coffee is from my past conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I like the taste of coffee? No. Though that was established because maybe I tried coffee and it tasted really bitter, which it is very bitter. And I thought maybe caffeine was not good for me. Where was that conditioning born? I have no idea. My parents drank coffee. And so somewhere along the way, I got conditioned that fast forward to 48-year-old Adam going through a cleanse. Somewhere in my past, I was conditioned that coffee was not good for me. Not to mention the caffeine would make me bounce off the walls. I said no, right? And that kind of goes back to the book, Jess, that we're obsessed with and have been for the last couple of years. And that's Be Your Future Self Now, right? That is the name of it, right? Yeah, Be
Yep.
Your Future Self Now. And the idea behind that is you have to expose some of these conditionings that are holding you back. So what did I do with the rest of that story? I drank coffee, but I had decaf
Mm-hmm.
coffee. I drank coffee because I knew that that was a conditioning from my past that was holding my present self hostage for my future self to show up, right? So this
Mm-hmm.
conditioning, Jess, is very, very, very strong, and we have to expose it to, I love your friction word, reduce friction, which helps us reduce the mental fear of uncertainty.
Right. Reducing friction provides clarity. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think is so interesting is I'm going to go back to my blueprint analogy, right? When you're in somebody else's container, they've built the foundation, they've built the walls, the doors, the windows. So your conditioning is the path that you take through this structure. It's already predetermined for you. You can only
Right.
walk from this room into this room through this doorway, and you don't get to be like, I want to build a new door. I want a window over there instead, right? And so it's a fascinating thing to sit here and be like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how I believed that that door was in the right spot. Or I wish that window would have been 2 sizes larger, or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, right?
Yeah,
But you don't get the ability to recognize that until you remove yourself from that container. And
that's
I
right.
think that's why so many coaches feel stuck, is
Mm-hmm.
because they're still comfortably sitting in the container trying to look at what's outside of it. And they can't understand how to build their own when they're inside. They can't envision their new opportunity in the same way when you don't leave the container you're in. So I think a huge part of this is you have to commit, right? And this kind of leads into our step 3, right? Is you have to commit to creating your new foundation for yourself and not rely on the one that was built for you.
Yeah. And we think we can do this easily, right? We think we can do this easily because we have a vision or we have goals or we see someone that's doing it and we think we can go do the same thing. You can. You actually can, but you can't bring those conditionings with you. You really you let me rephrase that. You can. It's just going to take you a hell of a lot longer to get to this new place that you want to get to. So rebuilding this foundation is going to take time. Okay? It's going to take time. Because here's what happens inside that rebuilding is number one, your thought processes have to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ownership value, the ownership of what this new thing is, Jess, takes time and belief, right? So we talk about all the time of we talk about this in our challenge, the payoff, right? The payoff that someone's going to get to coach with you. What we have found is some people who step out of their container, step into explaining what their payoff is, don't have clients come to their payoff because they've never done it. They've
Right.
never done what they're getting ready to sell to somebody else. They're not going to have success in that space. And so they built the foundation wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this process, this step 3 of rebuilding that foundation takes time, it takes belief, it takes authenticity, and it takes a calling. Jess, that's one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite words here recently is you got to find that calling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to go back to childhood, the story of the 3 little pigs, one built out of straw, one, and then you've got your others built out of whatever it is, sticks and stone. And it's like the people who want to go fast are the ones that are building out of straw, the ones who are, and they're building out of a previous container. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this is fast, this is easy, I can do this, right? And then it gets knocked over. The
Yeah.
big bad wolf blows down the house. The ones who are starting to recognize that they need to build something that is theirs, they're going to take a little more time, be a little bit more intentional, but they're still stuck. That's your little pig building out of wood or sticks. That's still going to get knocked over by the big bad wolf, right? It's the ones that understand that this is a whole new process of ownership. Like you said, it's knowing their calling, being committed to the process, and being committed to owning something that is 100% theirs and authentically aligned with them. And that is when we see people build massively, wildly successful businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't say, there's no promise or guarantee like you come in, you automatically get this, like in our world or anybody else's world. You have to, the person doing it has to put in the work. And so some of that has to do with removing the uncertainty and breaking free of the conditioning. And we see people take time to do that in 2 to 3 months. And we see people, sometimes it takes 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But the second that you can do that, it allows you to build the strongest foundation there is. Your house made out of stone or brick, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. By the way, do you have a son that just turned 5? Is that how we got to Little Red Riding Hood and the
You know what? No, that's not Little Red Riding Hood.
oh,
Totally different story.
is that the Three Bears? Is he? I'm. Oh,
That's another story. That's Goldilocks.
let's go.
I'm talking about the 3 little pigs and the big bad wolf.
Yeah, I'm not up to speed on my nursery rhymes.
He's probably never even read that. It was just we were talking about building houses, and that's where my brain went. Was a non-real estate and non-Alan Cleanse analogy.
That's good. Yeah, that was really good. It worked. It worked in my brain. I just couldn't remember if the
Well, when you mix metaphors and stories, it does make it a little bit more confusing. But I mean,
now, let me give a real world example to this, because I know this listener listens.
As long as it's not tennis, KW, or Alan, we're good.
Nope, it's not. This individual just had a great breakthrough in the last couple of weeks. And he's been in this space now for about 1.5 years. And he's very tactical. And he is very, very smart, very cerebral in his approach to helping people. I mean, what he has built is incredible. Though, when he presents very tactful. He presents very approach-oriented, step-by-step. Here's how you do it. And it's a masterpiece if that is the right avatar he's going for. But that's not the normal person, right? That's not This individual is a 1%er, and he talks in 1% language. What we had to help him with was understanding how to talk in emotional language, because emotional language draws people to him. So his conditioning was speak in his language, right? So the messaging, though, wasn't landing. And he had to realize that container that he came from wasn't going to attract the people that he wanted to attract. And the moment that he stepped into this emotional state coach to help those types of people, gosh, the floodgates opened for him, because now he was connecting with them at a higher level. He was connecting with them more emotionally, and people raised their hand. But he had to get over that of that conditioning of, I'm going to speak in tactical terms.
Yeah, I mean, if you're putting his story against our 3 pieces, he was uncertain of how to proceed outside of that container, right? So he spoke, or he was conditioned to speak a certain way because of where he came from. And it wasn't until he stepped into authentic alignment of himself and connecting emotions with, and so both halves of the human brain, right? Emotion and logic, that he actually connected with his ideal avatar. Right. So it's proof that his container created his conditioning, and his conditioning led to that uncertainty, which prevented him from owning his own thing. Even though it was incredible and valuable and tactical, he didn't know how to own it.
That's right.
And so removing the uncertainty and removing the conditioning is what allowed him to connect and own and grow and blossom and all the amazing things that I know that we're going to see from him in the coming months because of this complete shift.
Right. And we don't know where he learned that approach, but I think what he learned now is that process works for him. That process, because he can speak in emotion and he can speak in logic. He's a very unique individual and a very, very strong coach that has that ability. Not all coaches have that. And what was neat about that is he was able to step out of that container that we've been talking about and step into his own process. And now he's having the success that he's desired.
My nerd brain has a great reference, but I don't know that you'll understand it.
Why? Because I don't have a nerd brain, or because I'm still with the three little pigs, or
Star
Red
Trek,
Bull? Oh,
Vulcans and Spock. Spock is half
okay.
Vulcan, half human. Yeah, live long and prosper. Yeah. But, to me, this coach that we're talking about, he is like Spock, half Vulcan, half human. So he's got logic, he's got emotion, but he was only speaking Vulcan to
Mm,
everybody and speaking the logic side of things. And that wasn't connecting when he was in a room full of humans.
mm,
So there's
gotcha.
my nerd analogy.
Good. I like that nerd analogy. I've always been able to do this with my hands. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see a little V right there. That's kind of fun. Okay, well, this is good. So let's look at this. The reason why you're not having success, right? If we look at this, if you're feeling stuck and you want to have success in space, but you're feeling stuck, go back through our three prongs. Understand that this problem that you're having is just created through uncertainty, right? You have uncertainty. Why? Because of past conditioning that has not allowed you to step into this new foundational space that you see, that you feel, that you are attracted to. And you've got to pay attention to that, right? You've got to pay attention to those conditionings to remove that feeling of uncertainty. And when you step into this new rebuilding of your foundation, ownership of that space, the business, and ultimately your calling, just the world just opens up for you bigger, better, faster, stronger. It's so neat to watch. I love it. It's what keeps me going.
I love it too, 100%. Well, and honestly, this is where I would say if you want a roadmap on how to do this and move, like this concept of moving from stuck in a container to owning your own, I would challenge you to join our challenge, the I Love
Mhm.
Coaching Challenge, because this is exactly what we help people do. We help them move from the past conditioning and through the uncertainty into something that is 100% yours.
That's right.
And you and I feel our calling is to help more people do this, right? So we're demonstrating everything that we're talking about to you live and in real time.
Yep.
And I think it's an incredible opportunity for people who know that they're created for something more. They've got some sort of motivation or drive to do something that impacts others. And we want to help you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can just go to ilovecoachingco.com/challenge. Is that right, Jess?
Yep,
Perfect.
that's it.
Okay, perfect. Go there, go get registered for the next one that we have coming up, and you'll feel this, right? If you're in this space of what you just listened to, go sign up for the challenge. You'll see we've done this now many times. We've had many success stories. You can see the success stories on there of people just like you, me, Jess, those that are listening and watching. You'll see the success that they've had to unleash this opportunity for them to grow. I love it, Jess. Okay, anything else you want to share?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, everybody, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. See you, bye.